and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming. Due to a few requests after I released my Soul Weaver video, I'm bringing out a video for my version of a HellBringer build. It's not a class and a role I play that often, but I have got through Mad Mage with it as DPS a few times, and I'm normally posting pretty decent damage numbers between 75 to 90 million. So I'll show you the build that I'm running. I will say straight away you'll notice there's items where I'm missing enchantments. That's because I'm using all my gold for professions at the moment, and as I said, for my Warlock I normally main a Soul Weaver, but I will be explaining kind of what you want to slot into those empty enchantment slots. So we'll start with race and ability scores. So again, as with the previous video, the best race by far is Dragonborn, because you get a 3% damage increase, which is quite a lot more than any of the other races can give you. As I've said before, I hate Dragonborn. It's really ugly. It looks weird with almost any item of clothing on it. So I sacrifice the 3% damage to not look weird. If you're purely trying to push damage and you've got the Dragonborn, because it's one you have to pay for, then I will go with it. If not, I would just pick the class race that you like the look of. In terms of ability scores, you'll see here that we're putting all our scores into Dexterity and Intelligence. Dexterity is critical severity and movement speed, both really handy. And then Intelligence gives you control bonus and magic damage boost. Now, because damage boost is the second one to appear, that means it's the lower attribute of the two. So you don't get a huge amount of increased damage, but anywhere where we can find a percentage increase in damage, it's worthwhile taking. So we'll now move on to the gear. There is quite a few combinations of best in slot gear now with the introduction of the Ebonized rings that give you 3% range damage, as shown here. You can also get gear that gives you 3% encounter damage and 3% at will damage. So the two you really want to aim for is encounter and ranged. Range benefits all of our powers, or the majority of the Warlock powers, all the ones that we're going to use. And obviously encounters, we have quite quick cooldowns, so 3% encounter damage is a massive bonus. If you're unable to get them, then there's gear that gives you 3% at will damage, which is still a help. So if we look at what I'm running, I don't have all the best gear, but I've got a good combination of everything. But you want to try and get as many of those combos as you can. Each power stacks up to 2 times. So you'll see from here I've got 2 ranged, I think I've got 1 encounter and 1 at will. So I'm running Coil for the Spies Guild because the only place you really need the extra damage is in the harder content. This gives us 5% damage in Undermountain, which also applies to Lair of the Mad Mage. My chest piece is Hag's Rags because that's ranged powers do 3% more damage. Gloves, I've got Jaw Ripper gloves. Again, this is encounter powers do 3% more damage. Boots, I'm running Boots of the Wild. There's better than these, but this is all I've got, and it's 3% more damage for your at-will powers. I've got 1 Ebonized Raid Ring, which is range powers do 3% more damage. So that, along with my Hag's Rags, caps my 2 for that. Running Ring of the Shadow Stalker, so your powers deal 2% more damage when you're 25 foot or closer to your target. Even though all of our encounters are ranged, you need to get in quite a close proximity to get combat advantage. So we're always going to be within 25 foot of our target. Best in slot for your shirt is going to be your Ebony Stain shirt. So it's while your stamina is over 75%, your damage is increased by 3%. And there's no reason you need to be soul slipping around the whole fight. You should make sure that your stamina is always above 75%. And then the trousers, which reduce the damage you take by 3% when your stamina is over 75%. Now, in terms of your artifact gear, the Demogorgon set is still definitely best in slot. You're going to get quite a big damage increase from it. As I've said, I run a Soul Weaver as a main, and this set helps me out a lot. So I don't want to have to run 2 sets, 2 lots of enchantments, and then the Orcus Wand here. So I run Blooming Cord and Woven Vine. I'm still doing, as I said in the intro, plenty of damage. I would do more if I had the demo set, but this isn't my main DPS character. I just use it if I'm on my Warlock and someone needs DPS help, then I'll jump in and help. Now, in terms of your artifacts, I'm just going anything that's going to boost me power because I've comfortably hit all of my stats. So I'm running any of the artifacts where I can get increased power. I'm running Venom Coated Knives mainly because this is on my Soul Weaver build, but it does give you a good boost to accuracy and armor pen. Now in terms of weapons, I'm running the Alabaster set just because it's the easiest to get. And the set bonus is also, it's guaranteed to be active for a period of time. Burnished is probably better for bosses, but it relies on you getting damaged and getting healed. But I think either of them are fine. You just want to make sure that you are running one of these new weapon sets. Whether it's Mountaineer, Burnished, Alabaster, or if you're really, really brave and you want to go and try and get the Watcher set, go for it. It's really what you're looking for is that damage. So it's 3.5k to 4.3k damage. So it's got a big damage increase on even the +1 Masterworks, and that's where your main power calculation comes from. In terms of weapon enchantment, you definitely want to run whatever type of Vorpal you can afford. So I've got a rank 13 slotted, which gives me 45% increase crit severity and 4.5% bonus damage. There isn't another weapon set that comes close to it for DPS. And then for your armor enchant, it's up to you. I run a Bark Shield. It's not slotted in this because it's in my Soul Weaver gear, but I would run a Bark Shield. And then finally, if we come on to the enchantments, you should be able to cap your stats elsewhere in terms of armor pen, accuracy, and critical strike. So you really want to be putting Radiance in all of your offensive slots to get that increased power. And then defensive, it's going to be whatever you need to balance your stats. If you want to try and get more, deflect, crit avoidance, by all means slot enchantments that give you that. I still think you need to get hit points. So I would either go Radiance or a dual enchantment that gives you half hit points and half, deflect or half crit avoidance. And then for armor kits, I would run power in your main gear, so your helmet, chest, arms, and boots. And then in the other items, your jewelry, you would want to slot combat advantage. So we'll now come on to the boons and the mounts. So my boons are actually a bit all over the place, so I am going to reset them. And then we'll go through these as we go along. So what I would take for the first tier is hit points and power. Second tier, again, hit points and again power, and then also movement speed. Up to the next one, we take power again, we take hit points, we take combat advantage, and we take companion influence. Up to the next one again, then we take power and hit points. Now for the tier 5 boon, I think you have to take critical severity, and then really it's up to you. I haven't had a good chance to test what these actually do. Recovery speed didn't seem to do anything at all, so I'll put them into action points. And then for your master boon, I always take focus retaliation because I like the tier 3 perk. And then I have 4 points left, so I'm going to put them in deflect because I know I need more deflect. But I think that once you get those first few done, the rest is just to balance your stats. So that's, if you want to take a screenshot of it, that's kind of what I would look to do. And I think you get the most benefit from that setup. In terms of your stronghold, you're going to take power. I personally would take hit points, but if you've got other boons and you're not capped, by all means take the others. And then utility, I think mount speed helps for when you're questing around. So if we move on to mounts, I'm not going to go through insignia bonuses because actually most of them are rubbish. I would just say take Gladiator's Guile and Oppressor's Reprieve. Then what I do is take any that give me the chance to slot Dominance insignias because they give you more power. You'll notice a few skill ones slotted in because that's for my healer build, but skill ones are pretty decent because they actually give you combat advantage, and that can be hard to get up. So 480 combat advantage for a legendary is pretty decent. And then in terms of our mount, I'm using Lion as my power, just because that's the best that I have available. I don't have a T-Rex or a Swarm or anything like that. But realistically, most people don't have more than one legendary mount, so slot whatever combat power you have. Now, in terms of your equip power, power is really what you want it to be go for. Even if you've got a legendary mount that gives you other stats, it's likely not going to give you as much benefit as an extra 5k power. So if you have either the Black Eyes Warhorse or the Arcane Whirlwind, go 10k power. If not, I would go 5k power. So we're now going to move on to companions. So one thing I will say is companions is where you will see the most of your stats. It's the best place to spend money is on your bonding runestones and getting your companion to legendary. And then it's getting gear and the runestones that you like. Because if you have a rank 15 bonding, it's 70% of your companion stats. So 3 of those, it's 210%. So if we even look at these runestones, for example, I know they're rank 15, but they give you 1320 of a stat. 210%, that's about 2,800. So it's much better stats than a rank 15 enchantment slotted in your gear. So your priority, regardless of what level you're at, even if you're at rank 10 bondings and your companion's only epic and your gear's only got rank 9 runestones, this is where you want to spend all of your money because you're going to see the biggest difference. I can take these bonding runestones, pass them to a freshly leveled character. If he's got that new companion gear and rank 10 runestones, he hits every cap with just a purple augment companion. This is where you're going to get the majority of your stats from. So your priority, personally, I would be get a decent set of bondings, say rank 9, 10 upwards, then concentrate on your augment companion, get him to legendary, back to your runestones, then to 15, and then work on your runestones to slot in your gear. This is definitely the way I did it, and I definitely noticed a progression where I could see myself getting more powerful. So that's what I would aim for. In terms of my companion, I am running the Bullet Pup. Reason I'm running the Bullet Pup is because his extra stats come for combat advantage and power, I believe. Yeah, combat advantage, power, and defense. Now, the reason you run an augment, which I'll quickly go through, if you look at the stats here, they don't actually look that high. If I was to summon my Cholton Tiger, for example, his stats are higher. So it actually looks like, hang on, he will give me more because it's, 2.1 for my bondings. I get transferred. So why shouldn't I be running a Tiger? Now, the reason for it is that your bonding for your augment works differently. So if we bring the Bullet Pup again, the way it works with the Bullet Pup, you get his base stats, which is all that you can see on your screen there, and then those stats again times 2.1. So it actually ends up giving you a lot more stats than what a normal companion would. So we'll go and just show here for demonstration purposes. So I'm not going to take necessarily power because he gets a boost in that. Let's take armor pen and let's take crit avoidance. So it's 72, well, let's say 73 and 50. So now if we look again, 65 and 48. So I've probably knocked 5k off of my armor pen. Crit avoidance we're not too worried about. But generally overall, because I've added it up, you're talking 70,000 to 90,000 stat points depending what augment you take difference. It makes a huge difference. And the fact that normal companions don't do any damage. The only thing you can use them for is solo play to get combat advantage. Other than that, they're pretty pointless. So we're going to just have a look at these stats here. You'll notice I'm undercapped on accuracy by 7k. I haven't hit my armor, sorry, accuracy by 9k. I haven't hit my armor pen by 2.5. My defense is now undercapped. If we then go back to my companion and we summon that Bullet Pup again, and then we go back to our stats and wait for them to kick in. Now look at that. My armor pen is way over cap. My accuracy is now only just under cap. My defense has gone over cap again because this companion gives me a boost to defense, power, and my combat advantage has gone up to 91k. So I won't waste any more time on this section. We'll just say get an augment, get him to legendary, get your bondings up. Now if we move on to the actual companions that I'm using, I go for any that I can get power or combat advantage for a DPS character. I said this isn't my main and I've spent loads of money getting my healer ones to 10%. So I've got most of mine epic, but you can push more if you get them to legendary. So I've got Deep Crow in offense. Defense, I've got the GOAT just because I randomly had him at Epic and his stats actually are okay. But what I do have is a Minstrel, which is probably the best in slot for defense. I've only got him in green. You can get him from Sabella by spending the tokens that you get from the normal campaign. So that's what I would go for. I would go for the Minstrel there. Then I've got Kenku Archer, Ghost, and Storm Rider, because they all give power and they all give stuff like Armor Pen, maximum hit points, stuff that I need. They can be expensive. The combat advantage ones tend to be a bit cheaper, so you might want to go down that route. The last thing I will go through is equipment. This is probably not how you want to set up your DPS character. It's just, again, I don't want to keep slotting runestones between different items. This is where you can get your extra combat advantage. So Armor Pen you might need if you're not capped. You might need to keep the Pearl Ring. Accuracy, again, combat advantage, they're brilliant. You're not going to drop that. What you might do is get rid of your defense and awareness and accept, do you know what? I can take a little bit lower defense and awareness. I'm still going to survive. And then you can go and buy one of the older companion equipments that come with combat advantage. And that will give you, after bonuses, a 5 or 6k boost to combat advantage. So we're now going to move on to the part you've probably been waiting for and telling me to hurry up and get to. And that is powers and rotations. So we'll go over to the dummies first and then we'll get started. So the way I run my DPS character, I have 3 different loadouts that I use. I use them all on one loadout because the feats don't change. It's only the powers that change and the class features change. So I'll go through the AoE first. Now this will be for a dungeon. When you're running around under mountain, I've got a video previously of a simple rotation. I would stick with that because it works fine. But for a dungeon, you basically want to run 2 encounters that are going to curse enemies and then curse bite. Now I'm not sure if Arms of Hadar is meant to curse. It does sometimes and it doesn't others. Hellfire Ring does. It's a bit laggy to use. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but we're really only doing it to prep for curse bite. So we're going to run Hellish Rebuke as our main at will, and the other, it really actually doesn't matter. We're not going to use another at will. For your AoE daily, Accursed Souls is really good. We don't really have a very good single target. I run Tyrannical Curse just because it does more damage than the others. Now, for this first loadout, we're going to assume that we're in a dungeon with 4 other people. So we don't need No Pity, No Mercy because we are going to get combat advantage anyway. It generates a few extra soul sparks, but it's not really necessary. So what we're going to take Dust to Dust, and we're going to take All-Consuming Curse. All-Consuming Curse is there just in case we have a Curse Bite up and we don't have an encounter up. We can at-will a few people, and then we can use a Curse Bite. These don't change either for any of our 3 setups. So we go Double Scorch, Parting Blasphemy, because this causes damage every time a curse is removed. Risky Investment. This more comes into play when we go to our single target and we start using Hadar's Grasp. You're not really going to get that to activate with this AoE loadout. It's also a bit pointless because when you move between mobs, you're not going to have enough time to get that stack back. So even if you get a stack of Soul Investiture, if it takes you a few seconds to get to the next mob, you're going to lose it. Executioner's Gift. Your powers deal up to 20% more damage as your target's health diminishes. I'm taking that over Creeping Death because from looking at trackers and stats, it just seems to do next to nothing. I think it might be broken, but at the moment it's not usable. And then Soul Spark Recovery. Every 6 Soul Sparks spent on Scorch reduces your encounter cooldowns by 1%. This is actually quite cool because it does, once you build up a few Soul Sparks, you can get your cooldowns reduced by 2%. So this is actually really handy. So there's no rocket science about our rotation. We use an encounter, Curse Bite, another encounter, Curse Bite, and then I've got a Doohickey, so I'll throw that. That's kind of the rotation for your AoE. You've obviously got your artifacts you can pop if you want and your mount power, but generally that's what your rotation is going to be. And then you've got our daily up as well, so we'll pop that. And that's kind of what your daily, what your rotation is going to look like. And then you would use Scorch to get those cooldowns reduced. As you notice, Hellfire Ring just went down 2%. So I'll run another one. Then we'll use that again, and then we'll throw our doohickey. As you can see, it does decent damage, and when it crits and you've got a good rotation going with a few curses, it's 150 to 160k. On our single target, you'll notice that goes up even more. I don't know why, but you'll notice if we can get the doohickey to crit on a single target, it's about 200 to 210k, which is crazy for an item that you just can use every 30 seconds for nothing. So again, it's just going to be Fiery Bolt, Curse Bite, Hellfire Ring, and then Curse Bite. And Parting Blasphemy is going to hit for between 20 to 40k, depending on crit or non-crit. So it adds loads of damage, especially if we're talking about AoE. If it's going to hit that every person for that amount, it's a lot of damage. So then we'll move on now to the single target. They don't really change. The rotation is the same. It's just the fact that you need to take different class feats depending on what part of the game you're tackling, what part of content you're hitting at the time. So I run Haydar's Grasp, Killing Flames, and then Curse Bite. And I'll go through the reason for that now. So if you're on a part where you're not going to get combat advantage, we have to give up our 5% increased damage and take No Pity, No Mercy. The reason for that is combat advantage gives much more damage than 5%. There are fights, for example, Lair of the Man Mage, you can't get combat advantage on mimics. You might be able to position yourself away from your soul puppet if one's up, but it's going to take your time. It's just not worth the hassle. I've noticed Bollworm as well. I don't know if it's glitched, but I had no combat advantage numbers coming up against Bollworm, and I couldn't see the purple line where you can position for combat advantage. So Lair of the Man Mage, other than Trobriand and the AoE parts, I will run No Pity, No Mercy to make sure I get that combat advantage. And then these don't change. But Risky Investment comes in handy massively, and I'll quickly run through now. So what happens, firstly, you'll spawn a soul puppet when a curse is consumed. You won't get it proc. It only procs when you've got a soul puppet active. So we'll just wait a little while now. Wait for our cooldowns to come off. We'll throw one of those and get them. Oh no, I didn't have any sparks. That's not going to reduce. So then we do it now. And you can notice there, that green hand, Soul Investiture, Soul Puppet damage increased. But because we've taken a feature that gives us extra encounter damage every time we get a stack, then that's given us extra damage each time we increase it. As you can see here, we've still got 3 seconds to hit that. So we'll hit it again. Now I've got 2 stacks. This is what you do on a boss fight that might be like a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes long. As long as you're activating your Haydar's Grasp every time it comes available and you're cursing, you're going to get to 5 stacks. And what 5 stacks does with this feat is it's 5% bonus to encounter damage. So it's 25% bonus to encounter damage. That makes Curse Bite and Killing Flames hit like a truck. So I'll run through the rotation that I use. I've seen lots of people run different loadouts and get them to work. Some people don't run, a couple of these powers. I find this works better because it flows really well. When you throw in a Scorch in there, and if you maybe run Artificer's Persuasion to get more cooldowns, you can actually get a really good flow going of damage. And got a doohickey as well. So what I would do is literally 1 at will, then you lift them up, 1 at will again, then you're going to do Killing Flames, 1 at will again, Curse Bite, 1 at will again, Curse Bite, and then you do your at wills. You do your Soul Scorch to get some cooldowns. Then I'll chuck my doohickey. There you go, 215k. Then we're going to lift him, AoE, Killing Flames, at will, Curse Bite. Might as well hit my line now it's available. At will again, wait for Curse Bite. Takes a while because it's 11-second cooldown per charge. Then we're at full spark, so we're going to hit that again to get our encounters back. Killing Flames, at will. Going to hit that again to try and get Curse Bite back. There we go. And there we go again. We're getting back to Soul Spark, so we're going to get another cooldown by using that. Now we can lift. Killing Flames. Doohickey's back. Daily. Let's use that. Why not? Curse Bite. Get some encounter reductions again. At will. Haydar's Grasp. And as you can see, we're up to 5 stacks now of Soul Investiture. So we're doing some decent damage here. Now, I haven't found a way to compete with Rogues and HRs. But on my last run through Lair of the Man Mage, I hit 90 million, which I think for this character is pretty decent because we do lack some of the raw damage that some of the other classes have. And then a doohickey, there you go, 210 counter crit. So that's what I would use for your single target. The only change you need to make if you're at a boss where you can get combat advantage is if you can drop No Pity No Mercy and you can take dust to dust. So you just have to make sure you position correctly with your teammates to get your combat advantage, and then you've got an increased 5% damage. So I'll just run through that rotation one more time. I'll just do it slowly, just so we can get it. So it's an at will, and then you'll notice the curse pop above the head. We're then going to lift. Hadar's Grasp does pretty good AoE damage. We're going to hit again to get a curse. Killing Flames won't remove it, so we can then Curse Bite. That removes it. Part and Blasphemy. At will, Curse. Curse Bite, Part and Blasphemy. Get our cooldowns reduced. Doohickey. Lion. Pop our artifact, and then we're back again to this rotation. Now, even though you don't need to at will after Killing Flames, I tend to anyway, just because we have the time to do it, and it's probably a better routine to get in to always make sure you're at will, just so you don't forget to curse, because it can make a massive difference. If you forget to curse a Hadar's Grasp, you're going to miss Soul Investiture and you're going to lose all your stacks. So that's kind of it for the build, to be honest. It's what I've put together. It works. It gets through Mad Mage easily. The rotations work well. There's probably better ones out there. If you've got some, please feel free to comment. But that's kind of it for this video. So feel free to leave some comments and ask questions, and we'll see you in the next video.